Priority transmission secured. Greetings, humans. This is Tsal Ufaad, Fleet Master of the Swords of Sangheili. Master Shipwright Ikro Kotam has requested that I continue our joint informational exchange, due to my personal expertise in what will follow. I understand his knowledge on the Kets and Sudars has been most useful in combating pockets of Covenant remnant groups during these recent weekly cycles following the downfall of the Tyrant. That being said, the losses of ships such as these has given way to a re-emergence of older, yet potent vessels, vestiges, ancient Sangheili warships from a bygone era. I have studied these ships for many cycles, long before they were recommissioned not that long ago, and so I was asked to reveal all that I know. Should any would-be Sangheili warlords stalk along the joint occupation zones, or those who may prey upon those worlds recovering from the Tyrant's grasp. With that, let us begin. This is an analysis on the Vestige warships of the former age, or more commonly known to your kind as Sangheili Warships. During the earliest period of interstellar exploration, each clan among the Sangheili had a distinctive approach to starship engineering. Thus did the Vestiges come into being. These are purely Sangheili warships, crafted to make war upon their enemies, and upon themselves as well. Within their corridors lies facilities used purely for naval warfare. Elsewise, there was little comfort for those who manned them. Even in our modern age, for other species, facilities on Vestiges are clumsy retrofits. Even many of our fellow Sangheili find shipboard conditions uncomfortable, as they are not accustomed to the scented air and droning subsonic hymnals that were a standard feature 2 millennia ago. Despite this, these mighty warships served our kind well during the War of Beginnings, when the Sangheili were united as one against the formidable power of the Sanshayum's dreadnought. For decades they harassed the Sanshayum for as long as they could, until the war reached Sangheilios' doorstep. It was there that the tide turned as leaders rose and fell on both sides, and in the end, terms were reached, and the writ of union was signed, bringing the war to an end and ushering in our glorious Covenant. Yet not all Sangheili clans were willing to surrender their military power to the Sanshayum after the formation of this upstart empire. Those who had hoped to renew aggressions against the Prophets sent their fleets to drift in the space between stars or in caverns carved under airless worlds, then burned their memory and honors from all data archives. Forgotten by all but a few lineages of remembrancers, these vestiges are ancient instruments of power and destruction, reclaimed by warring Sangheili factions following the Great Schism, to bring glory to their shipmasters and spread carnage among the stars. Since many of the common and Covenant vessels were lost at the closing of the War of Annihilation, Sangheili of many allegiances have been pressed to ignite the assembly forges of old and scour shipbreaker complexes from past eras. And even now, a new generation of shipwrights look to these vestiges both to learn their history and document engineering solutions which were lost, suppressed, or ignored by the Covenant. There are 4 notable ship patterns that made up the Vestige line during the time of the War of Beginnings, patterns that are now pressed into Sangheili flotillas today. The Man-O-War, the Karak, the Blockade Runner, and the Brigantine. And lest I be charged with omission, the Bark was another such ship that hailed from the Vestige patterns. A heavily armed and capable warship, able of atmospheric flight, and capable of landing warriors on a planetary surface. Sad to say, as our ancient naval database is still not complete, the vessel pattern is obscure, even to me. However, let us discuss the vessels that we do know. Beginning with the Vestige-pattern man of war, created from foreigner secrets gleaned long before the War of Beginnings, the man of war represents a pinnacle of ancient Sangheili attack ship design that, in many respects, was never truly equaled by more recent Covenant patterns. Fast, deadly, and easy to operate, it quickly found favor in the fleets of both the Arbiter and Julmandama during the Blooding Years. In time, the ship proved to have many quirks of operation that were typical of pre-Covenant designs, and crews that did not respect its temperamental flux plasma reactor cores did not live long enough to regret their lack of attention to its seemingly antiquated rites of maintenance. During the War Beginnings, the legendary Pelisar the Strident engineered a man-o'-war known as the Reckless Pursuit to test foreigner-derived weapons technologies intended for use against the foreigner dreadnought. This proved to be a great success, for when the Sanshayum assaulted Sanghelios at the war's end, this very ship brought down the key ship, and ultimately led to peace negotiations between Pelisar and the Sanshayum. With a length of 1,730 feet and a mass of 1.6 million tons, the Vestige-pattern is armed with the Shunku-pattern fusion Saker, 2 Corvin-pattern plasma beam emitters, 8 Gafnaran-pattern plasma cannons, and 4 Eru-pattern pulse lasers. Ever since their reintroduction, the man-of-war has become a critical element within not only our own fleets, but within the burgeoning fleets of the Covenant remnants. Next is the Uraru-pattern Karak. With a length of 9,249 feet and a mass of 264 million tons, these ships of war are relics dating to the foundation of the Covenant, recovered from fleet ossuaries to fight once again after its dissolution. Though ancient in human terms, the Karak's reactor still burns with the fury of caged stars, and their hulls shimmer with nigh unbreakable shells of energy. In the modern era, they have found a role as versatile cruisers and carriers, reinforcing naval battle groups and transporting armies under the flag of a dozen factions and would-be warlords. Retrofitted with modern technology, the Uraru-pattern is equipped with 3 Ura-pattern plasma beam arrays, 2 Kuro-pattern plasma beam emitters, and 8 Pulnaran-pattern beam lasers. Whereas the Sanshayum preferred multi-role vessels that could complete a wide variety of tasks throughout the Covenant, the warring factions among the Sangheili are afforded no such luxury. With more heavily armed vessels destroyed or locked in bitter conflicts, Sangheili fleetmasters soon learned that the Karak merchant cruisers are surprisingly capable and resilient troop and materiel transports in the pernicious conflicts that defined the Blooding Years. But by pulling many from trade and transport duties, this has crippled much of the interstellar trade that bound Sangheili worlds together, leading feuding Kaidons to reignite abandoned forges on long-forsaken worlds, hidden from the periphery of Covenant space. Yet by far the most versatile and popular vessel among the Vestages are the Hekar-Ta-pattern Blockade Runners. Relics of wars long forgotten, Blockade Runners are old-era Sangheili corvettes that prize speed and raw power, employing unrefined and indelicate energy projectors that would offend Sanshayum officials, though more than capable of breaking shields and shattering armor of any contemporary warship with little trouble. Crafted by the vassal workshops of Clan Makan and Clan Vol, the Runner's ancient and resource-intensive Misa generators function well in modern engagements, though they conceal the ship's location through brute force jamming and expenditure of small drones, rather than the more elegant sensor distortion grids installed on later Covenant designs. Sangheili artisans and architects take much of their inspiration from nature, both in the structures they raise from the ground and the ships they take to the stars. The whole design of the Blockade Runner is based on an Archon Ta, a carnivorous fish found in the northern waters of Sanghelios. Roughly the size of a Sangheili's fist, these creatures are feared and respected, not for their size, but for their incredible attacking speed and fearlessness. With a length of 6,626 feet and a mass of 80 million metric tons, the Blockade Runner contains numerous hangars, chambers, and other compartments for our Sangheili brethren. Within the ship lies its cavernous command chamber that shares a similar design model to the Vestige-pattern corvette. Its spacious interior is aligned with several rows of control consoles for the various systems that define the Blockade Runner as a strong and swift interdictor. The Hekarta patterns are crewed with 5 superiors and 220 menials, augmented by 15 obedientaries, 100 warriors, and 500 thralls. Every Blockade Runner was stocked with ancient patterns of banshees and other craft when they entered storage. However, they were obsolete, and were swiftly discarded or recycled when the ships were restored to active duty. The weapons of a Blockade Runner are antiquated, but not ineffective. Though the older style of energy projectors lacks range and delicacy, they do not disappoint in raw power. The plasma cannons can also be overcharged to levels well beyond what the Covenant considered prudent. This can give the ship a tactical edge, but inexperienced crews run the risk of accidentally crippling the weapons with over-eager aggressiveness. The weapon systems of the Hekarta consists of a Feryx-pattern excavation beam, 3 Corvin-pattern plasma beam emitters, 24 Gafnaran-pattern plasma cannons, 16 Litrix-pattern plasma torpedo silos, and 10 Eru-pattern pulse lasers. Modern Covenant repulsor drives are finely tuned and expected to operate for years between maintenance refreshes. The engines on the Blockade Runner are cruder instruments that require constant monitoring and adjustment to operate at full power. The Hekarta pattern is outfitted with advanced stealth generators and an onboard hyperscanner reverse-engineered from recovered foreigner material. In theory, these systems could work in concert, allowing them to obtain detailed internal scans of unsuspecting enemy vessels, but their use has been limited during the time of the Covenant. Hyperscanners provided an overwhelming amount of information, which could have been filtered by the foreigners' own artificial intelligences, something that the Prophets, in their infinite wisdom, had significantly curtailed. While the ancient hyperscanner panels of Vestige warships are far superior to most human sensors, Covenant warships can easily avoid their imposing gaze. Once thought lost to time, the origins of the Blockade Runners can be traced back to the War of Beginnings, as with all the other Vestige patterns. Many have been pulled from a grand fleet ossuary in the outer edge of the Jewry system, and reconditioned for war by Chulmandama and Thalvadam. These were part of a fleet that once belonged to Orphan Koram, a legendary apostate and supreme commander who vanished from history after refusing to join the Covenant. Blockade Runners were his signature warship, used to quickly strike Sanshayum fortifications and then vanish before retaliation could be directed their way. His gift continues to aid the swords of Sanghelios even now, as they have been thrown into supporting ground operations on Sanghelios, against the better judgment of their shipmasters. Last, and most imposing of the vestiges, is the Lursu-pattern Brigantine. Centuries after being rendered obsolete as a mainline warship by a Sanshayum commission intent on diminishing Sangheili's shipwright influence in the early years of the Covenant, the Brigantine's role was reduced to mere formality, serving in proselytization and merchantite fleets. In the years since the Great Schism, however, the vessel was resurrected from the shadows of orbital shipbreaking facilities, and once again pressed into frontline service as a heavy carrier and fleet command ship for nearly all factions of the Sangheili civil wars, with the swords of Sanghelios possessing the majority of them. With a length of 20,889 feet and a mass of 3.2 billion tons, the Lursu pattern is armed with an Elsian pattern super heavy excavation beam, 12 Razu pattern heavy plasma lance batteries, 188 Kursuchu pattern plasma torpedo silos, and 200 Quirin pattern pulse lasers. Truly, the Brigantine is a ship without peer in both size and firepower. Even the Siphon pattern assault carriers are shadowed by these fearsome vessels. But for many, the Vestiges were simply heirlooms of a time when the Sangheili stood as one in defense against the overwhelming power of the Sanshayum's key ship. At the proclamation of the Writ of Union 3,000 cycles ago, all 4 of these patterns were phased out by a more advanced starship pattern. In the early years of the fledgling Covenant Empire, meticulous attention was paid to the delegation of authority and oversight across every area of societal and military domain, with both founding species eager to find advantageous common ground, while also retaining elements of political influence and cultural autonomy. The Yuzumru pattern Void Piercer, however, was a joint design by both Sangheili and Sanshayum Origin, one of the first truly collaborative engineering efforts between the newly united species. As the Covenant's military and transportation infrastructure was still being formulated, the Void Piercer was designed with a broader operational scope in mind, with less focus on the deliberate specialization of other ship designs that would follow. The Yuzumru pattern craft's design process also acted as a crucible to test the ability of the Sangheili and Sanshayum to cooperate on large-scale engineering efforts, the fruits of which proved immediately vital during the complex construction of High Charity itself. While I cannot say if the Yuzumru pattern counted as one of the Vestige line, it is worthy of note as a successor to the old Sangheili Warships in the early time of the Covenant. Where once the Vestages were used by a united Sangheili people, now chaos reigns as brother turns against brother, and these ancient warships are pulled from their hallowed resting places to burn what they had once been built to protect. Indeed, these ancient patterns have seen much bloodshed over the skies of Sanghelios, most notably in the Siege of Sinayon, where the light of Jul Mandama's Shadow of a Covenant was extinguished forevermore. But when the tyrant imposed her iron will upon the system, these vessels lay dormant once more, for she allowed no one but her damnable army to be armed. But now, she is gone, and Sanghelios and her moons are free once more, only for the banished to invade Suban, the Blood Moon. Such impertinence will not be tolerated. And so saying, the indomitable Arkad Nar Khalul leads the Swords of Sanghelios fleets against the mindless savages. Many starships within his defense fleet hail from ancient patterns connected to our pre-Covenant history. Admirable as that pursuit is for the spirit of the Sangheili, these patterns are largely outdated and are of no match to the raw power or tonnage of the dreadnoughts and cars of the banished. But it matters not how powerful or strong these ogres are. They cannot match the will and determination of the Sangheili warriors that crew them. They will fight until the last of our warships burns in the skies above our Blood Moon, within the sight of itself. The Swords of Sanghelios will not falter. We shall usher in a new era for our people, heralded by our Vestige Warships.